This is the first of 2 lecture videos for week 5 of Career and Employment Resources. Our agenda for material this week will be to first look at the 4th stage of the Career Life Planning model, reassessing the plan, review, evaluate, and adjust. Then we're also going to have a look at universal resources to build on the various resources we've looked at in previous weeks under Who Am I, What's Out There, and How Do I Get There. We're also going to explore 3 golden rules that need to be considered when you are working with career and employment information with clients in the field. And lastly, we will just look briefly at the case study assignment and homework that you're going to do this week. So far, we've looked at processes and resources that fit with the 3 stages of the career life planning model. There may, of course, come a time when decisions and choices made in the 3rd stage need to be revisited. We discussed this stage and touched on it to some extent last week, but I would like to take a few minutes now just to reinforce this particular stage and to explore it just a little bit more. So we know now about the 3 stages: who am I, what's out there, and how do I get there? And this stage is really a 4th stage that is blended within the model between all 3 steps: review, evaluate, and adjust. And again, you had a little introduction to this last week, and let's just revisit some of these concepts to reinforce them. So clients may, of course, experience life transitions, sometimes by choice or by chance. So, for example, downsizing or layoffs would be probably a life transition by chance, as well as injuries, loss of interest in a career. An individual may decide that they would like to choose to go into a different occupation. They may be looking at semi-retirement and want to reconsider the occupation they've been in and perhaps consider other types of work. So this types of transitions mean that the clients may need to cycle back to the beginning of the model. They may need to go through all the stages again and make new choices or decisions. So in short, they may need to review, evaluate, and adjust their plans. It's really important to include this as a 4th step in the model and acknowledge that changes can and will happen. In other words, it's unlikely a client is going to work through all 3 of those stages, make an occupational choice, and then stay in that occupation for the rest of their lives. So the career life planning model can be very useful for any client at any stage, that when they come to see you, if they need assistance, to identify exactly where they are positioned within the model so that then you know what resources to provide to them and where to go from there. So this is an ongoing process. The review, evaluate, adjust step is an ongoing process that may be incorporated into any step or any part of the decision-making process. For example, after you've done some work in stage 1 with the client, who am I, and then started to do some exploration in stage 2, what's out there, clients may still be confused about which occupations may be a good fit for them. It may mean that they have to remain in the what's out there stage for a while, or it might mean that they have to backtrack and really consider again, who am I and what do I really want to do? Or the client may make a choice or a decision to go back to school and then realize that they're not academically strong enough to do a particular program, or they don't have the financial resources. So they might already be approaching the how do I get there stage, but as they get further into it and get closer to making a commitment, for example, to go back to school, may realize I just don't quite have the financial resources to be able to do this. So they may need to then backtrack again to the beginning and rethink about who am I, and or go back to exploring, what's out there. Perhaps, as an example, looking for a program that is less expensive and that could get them out in the field faster. So being able to review, evaluate, adjust at any point in time with the client is really important. Depending on the client's situation, you may need to help them start over at the beginning of the model, or you may help them with wherever they are in the model. So it is very important as part of your needs assessment process that you do some identification of where the client is. And if you're using a process like Common Assessment, for example, you would be able to likely, after you work through all of the employability dimensions and all of the things that you're going to explore in the initial intake with the client, that you likely will come away from that process with a sense of where the client is in that process and where they would be in the career life planning model. So a client may, for example, come in to see you and have a very good sense of who they are. and what they want and what they don't want, but they may need to explore what's out there, for example, based on changing needs and values. So they may have a sense at this point, I've been doing this work, for example, for a number of years. I've really come to feel now like it's just not a good fit for me anymore, and so I need to reconsider. I need to have a good sense of who I am, what my values are, but I need to explore what other types of occupations might be out there that would fit for me at this point in my life. So the key point from this review, evaluate, adjust step is that it can happen at any point in an individual's life. It can happen at any point as you are working through a model, the model with the client, the three-stage model, and that you need to be prepared to clearly help the client identify where they are and be willing to support them as they are doing the review, evaluate, and adjust process. So that's all I'm going to say about that step 4, and I'm going to pause the video here. And when you're ready, please go on to part 2.